that...
Chairman, I've heard the nominee acknowledge that he'll be working through a board. I've heard your deputy, your staff. What about your board?
The board that will be matters of policy, but they will not decide for us our investigations and prosecutions. That will be to interfere into my independence.
What about the Attorney General?
The Attorney General will be prosecuting under her authority. That doesn't mean that she would instruct us who to prosecute and who not to prosecute.
Chairman, I'm compelled, just, Barbara, before you are done, I'm compelled to go to Act 959. And for the nominees, if you follow through the law, functions of the board is not limited to policy. It's in addition, and I'm reading C, D, E, and F. Even though F supports your position, policy matter. Advise the special prosecutor on the recruitment and selection of the secretary and other staff. Develop and monitor implementation of a code of conduct for staff of the office. And facilitate cooperation between the office and relevant national investigative bodies such as IOCO and SHRI. So beyond policy, what role will be your board? I note with satisfaction that you say you are just one strong individual, but you need the support of your board to succeed. And Chairman, once I have this floor, let me render...
No, it's not for you.
No. Just one issue. When I raised the issue of the Bulisa Way, a certain impression has been created publicly. I use it advisedly as a cultural joke, which is the case, to inspire humor into the debate, which I shared politely even with the chairman before I came on. Any person feeling offended, I regret it and I retract. I thank you. But it was used strictly in the cultural sense of a joke, of the joking relationship established within Northern Ghana and Northern culture. But to my question, your board.
Mr. Chairman, I will say that the relationship, the bullshit, I will leave it, but I have a different view, as I've said already, you know. But my board, as I said, all those recruitment issues and all that, if you look at policy generally, it all comes under it. And definitely we'll interview staff and all that. But the law also says that in the day-to-day performance of the functions of the special prosecutor, he will not be under the direction or control of any person. But you also look at the way you form the board, and you would see that there is a little bit of a problem there. But I think that we can still work it out. When the whole board is composed, I think we'll be able to find a working way, because this law must work. Doesn't matter what the problems are. We are human beings. It's important to fight corruption. We will not be looking at what lapses in the law there are. I am prepared to work with the board to make sure that the institution is set up. But I'm not going to allow the board to usurp my investigatory and prosecutorial functions which have been given to me. As the article I sent out shows, I sent out on the net shows, even in the United States, the Attorney General doesn't instruct the special prosecutor. Mueller is there. But you realize that when the Attorney General tries to interfere, the nation rises up. And I'm expecting Ghanaians who are supporting this appointment to behave like the Americans are behaving. So to be our backbone when politicians want to interfere with our independence. So that's the situation. So I don't see any conflict between the board and my office. You know, I think that it is doable, it is workable, and we will go on well.
Chairman, before the Honorable Okujeto, the nominee have just stated a very important historical fact of America and Mueller. Mueller is contemporary. That's 21st century, 2016 and 17. But if Ghana was to learn, I appreciate the point you are making, that we need to learn from best practice. If you go back to Watergate scandal in 1978, between President Richard Nixon, when Nixon appointed Cox, Nixon appointed Richardson Attorney General, then subsequently Cox as Special Prosecutor. You don't think that Ghana may have to go through some experience just like the Americans did in the 70s before the improved special counsel that they have today?
Mr. Chairman, I think that we learn as a nation, we learn from other nations' experiences. As you said, Richardson was Attorney General. He appointed Cox as Special Prosecutor. In his parliamentary approval like mine, he promised Parliament that he will not fire Cox. Then Nixon directs him to fire him, so he resigns. Nixon directs his deputy to fire him, so he resigns. It was only Brock who agreed to fire Cox. And when he did that, the whole Congress was up in arms. The whole nation was up in arms. That is what brought the Ethics in Governance Act 1974 and made it impossible for the special prosecutor to be dismissed. So that lesson is there for us to learn. And I'm hoping that with an eminent constitutional lawyer as president, I mean, I should think that he should know that already. And maybe that's why he decided that I should come and do it, so that I can maybe take the bullet by saying it won't be done. I don't know.
Chairman to the nominee, President, eminent constitutional lawyer, Special Prosecutor, eminent constitutional lawyer. What is wrong with the board, as you suggested? The board. You said in your reaction, you gave us an indication. This Parliament, our committee makes recommendations. When you looked at the composition of the board, you went close to saying that, look at the board, we'll work with it. Is there something wrong that you want Parliament to take note of and to look at?
No. What I'm saying is that we will work with the board. I don't think it will be fair for me. When I meet the board the first time, I'll tell them what I think our problem is. And then we can collectively take it. I won't sit here and be talking about any lacuna in the law when they are absent. So if you bear with me, when I have met them and we have resolved the lacuna and we are moving, I will tell the public how we have managed it. But to do it here will be a little bit jumping the boat.
Very well. Did you finish asking your question? Okay. Honorable, no, you are done. Sorry, it's a 10 of the minority.
I'm most grateful, Mr. Chairman. The Honorable Martin Amidu did say earlier, when you were asked about the assignment you were given to investigate the then Social Security Bank Limited, July 1988 to September 1988. For our records, did I hear you say that you were the only person of integrity found at the time to do the work?
I didn't say that. I said I was in the Volta region. And the chairman of the PNDC was looking for the hard-nosed man. Normally, because I see things others don't see, because of my capabilities in investigation. You know what I mean? And all those who know me, whether police, commissioner, CID, DPP, who have worked with me, know that I have a knack which is God-gifted. So he was looking for the hard-nosed man, and that was me. So he gave me that additional responsibility instead of appointing somebody from Accra. At that time, my friend there was in Revenue Commission, CVC, So I came and did the job, and I did it with a fear of favor. I'm not saying that I was the only honest person in the regime. Otherwise, we wouldn't have traveled that long from 82 and safely, bagged the ship on 7th January 1993. We couldn't have done that. One man, the chairman himself had more integrity than me. That's why he was able to control the ship of state to a successful landing.
Thank you very much. I want us to come to Section 2 of the Act, the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 959. there has been a lot of focus on investigation and prosecution, but there is a very important function assigned by Parliament under the object of the office. If you look at 2C, it says, take steps to prevent corruption. Because I believe that we should be interested in improving systems, making it difficult and impossible as much as possible for people to engage in corruption. We should not be scrambling around when the horses have bolted and then we are trying to prosecute people and retrieve stolen and stashed away resources. Can you share with this committee your vision, your ideas for preventing corruption as Section 2C of the Act stipulates?
Chairman, I've already said that one of our duties will be preventative, and good investigation, good prosecution for once. Education also acts as a preventative function. Within security and intelligence, there are certain methods you have to put in place to curb the loopholes. I cannot discuss them until I'm approved and appointed, and that one will maybe not be known to the public, because if it's known to the public, then there will be no need putting them in place. But we will put in place mechanisms that will make the offenses we are talking about unattractive to anybody who wants to commit them. So I can assure you that indeed the preventive measure is one of the most important measures the law has given. If you can prevent it, you save the whole nation. And the nation will have to be sensitized. When we begin educating the public on what corruption is, we will see that the assumptions, the things we take for granted, are things which really are prohibited by law. And we hope that can be a beginning. And we can do something using methods which other countries have used, but which cannot be disclosed publicly.
Mr. Chairman, can we come to your critique of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill 2017 by Martin A.B.K. Amidu, signed on the 6th of September 2017. You have stated here, time without number, that you are a man of principle. When you are being asked to bend your principles, you will better walk away. You will not allow your principles to be compromised. I have carefully read the rather erudite critique that this 25-pager offers, and I come across four major concerns you raise that you expected that the final output, the final Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017 will have addressed. First, you made a point that fundamentally you do not think that this office is even needed in the first place, and that Article 88 is adequate, that we need an Attorney General of integrity. That has not happened. Secondly, you make the point that the Special Prosecutor should not be accountable to a board. But if you read Section 14.1 of the Act, which has been assented to by the President, it says the Special Prosecutor is accountable to the board in the performance of the functions under this Act. You have said that that is a bureaucratic interference with your work and your independence. You also complain about the 15 years. Yes, I want.
He will ask a question after he has recounted this. I'll allow him one question. Now, this is just his prelim. I mean, on this one.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that there are four major issues you raise in your critique that the office of a special prosecutor is not necessary.
So you may now ask
That the
your
board
question.
is not necessary. You talked about the 15 years, the qualification of the special prosecutor being a disincentive. You thought that it was too low. But even in the act, what has been finally approved is 12 years. Then finally, you said you are opposed to the president appointing the staff at the office of special prosecutor, that the special prosecutor should be allowed to appoint people that he can work with. But in this act, section 21 of this act, it is the president that's going to appoint this act. And in your own words, quote, you said, this undermines the special prosecutor with politically minded persons, unquote. All of these are in this act. You have been saying you are a man of principle. Why are you here? Why are you accepting this appointment with all these impediments you have complained about?
Mr. Chairman, it is not true to say that I said that without the Attorney General being allowed to prosecute the crimes, as an office of special prosecutor is not necessary. I have quoted previously, if the honorable questioner was listening, that the moral compass and integrity of the president, and that shows that I stated clearly that this is a president who has gone to elections and won on the basis of a promise, and that it is doable. So to quote out of context is a little bit disconcerting for me, Mr. Chairman, because I have read a number of times that I have said it is doable. And I have said that when the president called me first, he said, Martin, I wish the attorney generals could do this, but you know that the public doesn't believe in them. So I promised to do this thing, and we have to do it. Right? I agreed with him. You get what I mean? And therefore, when he said, look at it, the board, I'm telling you that the definition of accountable and interpretation of accountable by law doesn't mean that the board is going to push you around. I've cited 2 cases in my critique, which if you read, explicates what under authority is. That's why I said it should be under the authority of the Attorney General. From the perspective of my understanding, I said that the board, the special prosecutor ought not to be accountable to a board because she's going to work under the authority of the Attorney General. The Attorney General has a legal counsel in her place, and so to impose another board over the special prosecutor, who is just going to do a mere prosecutorial function, will be added bureaucracy. This parliament has decided that it needs a board, right? I was giving a critique of my opinion. This parliament has decided it needs a board. It's put the board in a certain way. I have looked at it carefully. I think that it is workable. I have told you that I agree entirely that we must not throw the water away with the dirty water away with the baby. That's more fundamental to me than anything else. You know, so that is the context in which you are seeing the contradictions. But to me, as long as we can stop the leakages and seepages, which no president has tried to do before, I'll go ahead with him. That is the more fundamental principle, to stop corruption, not to postpone it. And I think that is more supreme. That is why I agreed to do it for him. And as I told you, I didn't think I'll ever accept this job. You see, I'm not bothered about the Court of Appeal judge. I was to go to the Supreme Court, not because of them. I'm doing this job for the love of making sure the people of this country have a better deal and stop the political elite and establishment from siphoning the money of this country abroad. That's why I'm here.
Sammy, yes. Chairman, did I just hear the nominee say no president, no president? Are you suggesting that there's been no attempt or effort by any president to fight corruption in this country?
I don't know the context in which you are quoting me. No president has passed the Special Prosecutors Act. That's what I mean. And if there is one, show me.
Mr. Chairman, We'll be moving to my last but one question now. I just thought that the Honorable Martin Amidu will have used his leverage with the President to help us have a more biting and stronger Office of the Special Prosecutor Act in line with his own critique. But I will move on. If you can please come with me to Article 296 of the Constitution of Ghana. It reads, where in this Constitution or in any other law discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, A, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. A duty to be fair and candid, emphasis mine. B, the exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased, either by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with due process of law, unquote. Mr. Chairman, I have a number of articles that the Honorable nominee has authored. I have here the 8 December 2016 congratulatory message to President-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. In the second paragraph, you write, quote, changing a government under which the mass of ordinary people were unnecessarily and needlessly burdened over the years under the yoke of massive and pervasive corruption, deliberate oligarchic mismanagement of abundant natural resources, party, political, and ethnic cronyism, and abject ineptitude peacefully through the ballot box is a feat worthy of emulation by other citizens of the West African subcontinent, in particular Africa in general. Then there is this second article dated 1st August 2017 under the caption, Yaudonko's whining is karma for abuse of the Constitution as a public officer by Martin A.B.K. Amidu. If I'll quote your last paragraph, you write, I have no tears for your egg. Stop whining for the respectful treatment from the police when you refuse to grant your fellow citizens similar respect when you had the opportunity to serve our motherland, Ghana. Yao. But in these cases, we still have judgment here, karma. And I've gone through this 4-page article. You appear to be gloating at the woes of Mr. Yaudonko, the former National Security Coordinator. If I'll quote from the last article I have here, just because of time, the 9th January 2017 article under the caption, the 7th Parliament must restore the confidence of citizens in the honor and integrity of the legislature by Martin A.B.K. Amidu. You wrote, and I quote, unlike previous elections in the annals of our history, the pivotal and critical issues were between electing a corrupt, bankrupt, inept, incompetent, abusive, impudent, and looter incumbent government, and electing one of the contesting candidates dedicated to fighting all these unconstitutional, capricious evils and protecting the national purse. The massive trashing of the incumbent looter government of John Dramani Mahama, may God never give Ghana a corrupt and looter president like him again, unquote. These are your words. Article 296 talks about being fair, being candid, not being driven by resentment. I see a lot of resentment in your articles. Can you, in all true conscience, tell the people of this country and this committee that you are not biased, you are not capricious, and you are not out to do a hatchet job for someone, as some sections of the society believe?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I've been called glutton, which normally I would not accept from anybody, but he has a privilege against another citizen, and he chooses to use those epithets on him. That's okay. Let me say that I have no leverage whatsoever over President Akufo-Addo. I never met him since we stopped going to court. I've never met him or spoken to him. The only day I saw him was when he came to swear in the Chief Justice, the new Chief Justice. He was going around greeting lawyers, and he shook my hand. Amidu, how are you? Fine. And he passed. The next time I met him was when he invited me to give me this nomination. I have not seen him since then. I have not spoken to him. So I have no leverage. The impression being created is erroneous, and it ought not to be peddled. You see, there is no evidence to support this statement you've made. I have stated that as a constitutional defense advocate, I fight for the people of Ghana using all the arsenals at my disposal. But you see, the questions you have asked me have failed to tell the other side of the story. The articles I have written against the MPP government and the Speaker, including the Honorable Chairman of the committee, when Honorable Mama Ayara got the problems, the things I wrote about him, which was in favor of the NDC, you've gloated over it. When I asked whether the Speaker was the enforcer of the law, you've gloated over it. You know, I've written things against all the political divides in defense of the Constitution. So if I'm going to be, you are saying that because I've written against the pond, a crocodile from the pond in which I come from, I cannot be impartial. What of those in the pond I don't come from? I am saying that the position of special prosecutor is a prosecutorial position, and I stopped practicing law and was doing constitutional defense. Now I'm going back to the practice of law. I will live by the ethics of the legal profession and the code of conduct of the Constitution. And I know better the discretion of the prosecutor because I've practiced it as Deputy Attorney General for upwards of 12 years. And I was Attorney General for 1 year. Who else in this country will know it better than me? I'm the longest serving Deputy Attorney General. So I know what it means to be empowered. I'm telling you, the fraternity of law is not a sleeping fraternity. That's going to close his eyes to Martin Amidu taking victims for his own personal aggrandizement. They are there as watchdogs. And I've lectured on ethics to law students, and I've told them, watch out. Any lawyer who does that is not worth the name. I'm not going to be a special prosecutor who will go into history as being vindictive. I will not.
Sorry, Sammy, you're done.
No, that's my last question now.
No,
that was the agreement, that this will be my last question. I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my final question comes from the book authored by Dr. Obed-Yao Asamoah, and the honorable nominee just talked about the many years he's been Attorney General. For many years, he was the deputy to the venerable and respected Dr. Obed-Yao Asamoah. In this widely acclaimed and fascinating book titled The Political History of Ghana, 1950 to 2013, The Experience of a Nonconformist, on page 465, Dr. Yao Obed-Asamoah had this to say about you. Page 465. 465. Dr. Obed-Asamoah said, quote, "In the end, Professor Mills chose as his running mate, my deputy at the Ministry of Justice, Martin Amidu, in a surprise and unproductive move," unquote. Surprise and unproductive move. In the next paragraph, he writes, "In my mind, I did not think that Martin Amidu would be beneficial to the ticket," unquote. I'm sure that you are aware of this publication. This was your boss for many years. You've talked about us checking with the people you have worked with to vouch for your credibility and your hard work and impartiality, which I am not saying is in doubt at this point. But how do you respond to your boss passing such a damning verdict on your selection as running mate of then candidate Mills?
Mr. Chairman, in the first place, Dr. Asamoah is not my boss.
Honorable Oni, hold on. If you wish to answer, fine. But I would have...
let me answer him.
Very well.
Dr. Asamoah is not my boss. He did not pay my fees through law school. He was called to the bar. I was called to the bar. He didn't appoint me Deputy Attorney General. I was appointed Deputy Attorney General before he came there. And I served under Akins, Nanatano. Mr. Forson came for 6 months before he was asked to act, right? And we are colleagues. And therefore, I knew my place and worked with him. That doesn't make him my boss. You see, so you are reading a self-serving book in which he wanted to be the vice presidential candidate. He was bypassed. The candidate saw in his deputy more competence, right, and excellence than him. Then he writes a book, and he writes this thing, and you are coming to read it to the whole public. I've never read that book. I've heard about it. But see, you have raised it in public. You see, you are reading a self-serving statement when your own presidential candidate and later president saw me as a more preferred candidate than him. And in any case, the law reports demonstrate that while he was doing that, I was going to court. He didn't train me. So don't, and if you say he is erotic, well, that's your comment. But you see, I regret that you brought his book and you want to knock my head against his. In his recent interview to MFA Apau, he described me as a person of honesty. You see, but you see, you people, you will collapse your old people by reading these things. Then I'll react this way. Dr. Sabwa calls me. Dr. Sabwa calls me, even when I was Attorney General, and even when he was accused, he called me to find out, Amidu, did it happen? And then I told him it didn't happen. So I'm on good terms with him. So if because of vetting we are doing this, I don't think it's good. You know, I would have let the question pass, but the public will understand it otherwise. Indeed, Professor, he and my senior brother, Elijah Mamedus, were looking for it. And then when Prof gave it to me, I told him, I will not accept a position which my senior brother was looking for unless he gives his blessing. I asked him first, have you told Dr. Sama? He said, yes. He's supposed to have been with me here to announce it to you. But he said, I can go ahead. I asked him, did you tell Elijah Mamedus? He said, no. I said, that's my senior brother. I can't take a position he was looking for. So if you want, after he persuaded me, I said, well, then you have to seek Elijah's concurrence. I was driving myself. I drove to Elijah's house, pointed to his house. Prof went and saw him, asked Elijah, he's alive, he's not dead, before I accepted the position. So my customary behavior with elders is special. And I wouldn't have liked to talk about Dr. Samoa. You've put temptation in my path. Unfortunately, unlike Justice Philip Acha, I took it. But I'm sorry to make those comments about him.
Chairman, I'm only doing my job. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ogujoto, you are done, please. And I can't say, I mean, I would have wished that we didn't go there, but, and then we will break for lunch because we can continue, but the candidate needs a break to stretch his legs and